In this session we shall look at the under and over absorption of overheads. So we're going to have a look at our overhead absorption rates and the different bases on which these can be calculated, whether direct labour, machine hours or per unit of production, and then we'll look at what we do at the period end when we compare the standard against actual figures. First things first, our overhead absorption rates. These, if you remember, are used to spread our overheads across the products or services that we provide. The overhead absorption rates, or OARs, are based not on past costs and activities, but on budgeted costs and budgeted activity levels, so they're prepared in advance of a period. Now, there are a number of different ways that we can calculate our overhead absorption rates. Typically, we calculate them on one of these three methods: direct labour hours, direct machine hours, or units produced. And we'll typically use direct labour hours where the work is labour intensive. We'll use machine hours where the work is machine intensive, and we'll use units produced typically where the department is just producing lots of identical products rather than a range of products. Now, how do we calculate these overheads that have been absorbed over a period into production? Well, we perform one of the calculations below. So, where our overhead absorption rate is based on the units that we're making, we'll take our overhead rate per unit and then we'll multiply it by the actual units made in a period. When it's based on direct labour hours, well, we'll take our overhead rate per direct labour hour and we'll multiply that by the actual direct labour hours worked in a period. Or, lastly, where our overhead absorption rate is based on machine hours, we'll take the overhead rate per machine hour and then multiply that by the actual direct machine hours. Now, at the end of a period, what we will do is we'll compare the overheads that we've absorbed into production with the overheads that we've actually incurred, and one of two situations will arise. First of all, we might find that our actual overheads are greater than the overheads that are absorbed into production. In this situation, our absorbed overheads are less than actual overheads, and we say that we have under-absorbed the overheads. The alternative position is where our overheads that we've absorbed into production is greater than our actual overheads. Well, in this situation, we say that we've over-absorbed our overheads. I suppose as a third case, we also have the situation where we absorb the same amount as our actual overheads, but this is extremely rare. Now, why do these under or over absorptions occur? Well, there are a number of reasons. First of all, our actual overheads may be different to the budgeted overheads. Secondly, our actual production levels might be different to budgeted production, so we've produced more or less than we were expecting. Thirdly, our actual production rates, so the amount of units that we produce per hour, say, might differ from the budgeted production rates, and this will have an effect when we absorb using labour or machine hours. So what do we do with this under or over absorption? Well, let's take a step back and look at what we do with production overheads when we incur them. Well, first of all, we will debit those production overheads to the production overheads account, and we will credit our cash account if the overheads were paid in cash, or the purchase ledger control account if they were paid for on credit. Then, as work is done and materials and labour is used up in producing our products, the overheads are absorbed into the work in progress account by, well, we debit the work in progress account with the overheads that are based on the overhead absorption rate and the actual activity levels, and we credit the production overheads account. So we're moving costs out of the production overheads account and into work in progress. Then, at a period end, we calculate our under or over absorption of overheads, and we have to deal with that as well. So we're going to, where we have an under absorption, we'll debit our profit and loss account with the amount that we've under absorbed, and we'll credit the production overheads account. With an over-absorption, that debit and credit are reversed, so we would debit our production overheads account and credit the profit and loss account.